Have you ever tried hiding snacks from your sibling only to come back later and find the stash mysteriously missing? You ask, who took my cookies? They say, I was just watching them for you. That's what banks do. Except instead of cookies, it's your money. And instead of your little brother, it's a billion-dollar institution with marble floors, fake plants, and a smiling greeter named Karen. Hey there, welcome to the vault. Now meet Julia. You remember Julia, sharp, thoughtful, kinda allergic to financial nonsense. She used to love her bank. She called it Benny. Even named her savings account Benny's Rainy Day Fund. Cute, right? Until one day, Benny betrayed her. Let's rewind. Julia had been doing all the responsible adulting. She worked a full-time job, freelanced on the side, and kept her spending tighter than her jeans after Thanksgiving. She saved. She budgeted. She kept her money in a high-yield savings account. And by high yield, I mean 0.3% interest. Yes, that's 0.03%. Translation? If she put $10,000 in there, she'd earn enough in a year to buy half a sandwich. No chips, no drink. Now at first she thought, well, at least it's safe. And sure, it felt safe. Like money in a vault, right? Except here's the kicker. While Julia's money sat there earning lunch money, the bank was out here lending it at 7%, 22% interest. Credit cards, car loans, mortgages, business lines. Your money, their profits. Let's pause there for a second. Imagine you give your friend $1,000 and say, just hold this for me. Next week, they come back wearing new shoes, sipping a latte and say, oh yeah, I loaned it to someone and charged them interest. You'd be like, excuse me? But that's what banks do. Every day, legally. And they don't split the profits with you. They give you a few shiny pennies and a mobile app that crashes every time Mercury's in retrograde. Julia found this out during a podcast binge. She was walking her dog, Morty, and listening to an episode called The Great Banking Illusion. By the time she hit the corner bakery, she had paused the podcast 5 times, Googled fractional reserve banking, and mumbled, wait, what? At least 7 times. Because that's when she learned the real plot twist. Banks don't actually keep all your money in their vaults. In fact, they're only legally required to hold a tiny percentage of it. The rest? They lend it, flip it, invest it, and rake in profits, while you get confetti. This system is called fractional reserve banking, and it's basically legalized financial wizardry. Julia was stunned. Wait, she thought, so I'm putting money in a place that uses my cash to make their money, and I barely get scraps? Yup, it's like giving someone ingredients for a cake and they eat the cake in front of you, then hand you a few crumbs and say thank you for your contribution. Now here's where it gets spicier. Julia, being Julia, decided to dig deeper. She started reading about the 2008 financial crisis. You know, the one where banks gave out loans like Oprah gave out cars? You get a mortgage, and you get a mortgage. Everyone gets a mortgage. Spoiler, that didn't end well. Banks gambled with people's money. Big bets, bad bets, the kind of bets that would get you kicked out of Vegas. Then the bubble popped. Millions lost their homes, jobs, savings. And the banks? They got bailed out. Imagine lighting your neighbor's house on fire, then getting a check from the government for trying your best. That's how backwards it was. Not because she hated banks, but because she finally realized they are businesses, not babysitters. They're here to make profit, not protect your dreams. And most people, they still think the bank is their friend. Let me be clear. Banks are not evil. They're just doing what they're designed to do. But trusting them blindly, that's like trusting a cat to babysit a goldfish. Now back to Julia. She started asking big questions. If they don't pay me interest, if they use my money, if I can't access large amounts without a notice period, then what's the benefit of keeping my savings there? And then came the final straw. One Monday, Julia tried to transfer $8,000 from her account to make a down payment on a used car. Nothing fancy, just a decent little hybrid named Bert. The app froze. The bank flagged it. She got a call from an unknown number. Hi, this is fraud protection. Can you verify this transfer? She did. Then they asked her to come into the branch. Julia hasn't been to a branch since jeans had rhinestones on the back pockets. Still, she went. She showed ID, signed forms, waited. Finally, they gave her a cashier's check. She stared at it. Her own money held hostage for trying to use it. She texted Gabriel. Bro, I feel like I'm asking permission to breathe. Gabriel replied with a gif of a dude smashing his phone into a pillow. Relatable. Julia had hit her limit. She started exploring alternatives. And while some of it sounded like conspiracy theory rabbit holes, buy gold, hide it in your mattress, other ideas actually made sense. She moved some savings to a high-yield online account. Not perfect, but at least 4% instead of 0.03%. She put some into a short-term bond ETF that paid regular interest. She opened a brokerage account, bought a few dividend-paying stocks, and started watching her money work. No, she didn't pull a financial Cinderella, but her money finally stopped napping and started hustling. Meanwhile, her checking account, still at her old bank, just enough to cover bills. The rest, deployed like tiny little soldiers with jobs and timelines. Julia wasn't just a saver anymore. She was a capital allocator. She didn't need the bank's crumbs. She baked her own loaf. And here's the wild thing. Once she shifted that mindset, she saw everything differently. How most people don't own their money, they store it. How we've been trained to save for a rainy day but never taught to grow for a storm. How the system whispers security while playing poker with your paycheck behind the scenes. Julia decided to stop being a passive participant in her finances. No more set it and forget it. No more, well, that's just how it works. She took the wheel. No GPS, just intention. Because once you understand the game, you stop trusting the scoreboard, and you start playing your own. And that's when she made the decision that surprised even her. She walked into her bank, politely thanked Karen the greeter, and closed her savings account. Karen blinked. "Is there a reason?" Julia smiled. "Yeah," she said, "because I'm tired of being the cake batter. I want to be the baker." She walked out, no confetti, no drama, just clarity, and a whole new plan for her money. Which, by the way, is where things start to get really interesting. Because once Julia realized she wasn't obligated to do things the normal way, she got bold. Like wear socks with sandals and challenge societal norms. Bold. First thing she did? She started building her own financial ecosystem. Not some secret off-grid Bitcoin bunker in the mountains, don't worry. Julia still showers and files taxes, but she created a system where she controlled the flow. Not the bank, not the branch manager, not some server glitch on a Tuesday. She opened a credit union account for basic checking, because fun fact, credit unions are nonprofit. They don't answer to shareholders. They exist for members, not margins. Was it as fancy? Nah. Did it come with a guy in a suit offering her a free calendar and a toaster? Also no. But she got better rates, less fees, and zero were reviewing your transfer for security phone calls. Then she added a cash management account, the kind that blends checking and investing. Some even paid higher interest than traditional savings accounts. Julia called it the Money Lounge, because money should chill, not beg for permission. But the real game changer? She stopped thinking about money as storage and started thinking about movement. Money that just sits, dies. Inflation eats it. Fees nibble it. Opportunity cost slaps it with a do better sticker. So Julia turned her money into little workers. She had 3 buckets. The now bucket, emergency fund, bills, basic expenses. Chill, safe, boring. Lives in her credit union. The grow bucket, index funds, dividend stocks, boring stuff that gets spicy over time. Lives in her brokerage. The build bucket, her let's take a smart risk fund. Online business experiments, courses, income tools. This is where magic could happen or not. And that's okay. She didn't go all in on crypto or meme stocks. She didn't try to 10x in 10 days. She just stopped trusting the system to grow her money for her and learned to grow it with her. Every Friday, she'd sit down with Morty, her rescue dog, a spreadsheet and a cinnamon latte, and she'd ask 3 questions. What did my money do this week? What could it have done better? Where should it go next? That's it. No MBA, no whiteboard strategy session, just awareness. Meanwhile, Gabriel was still yelling at his bank app because his rent payment triggered a suspicious activity alert. Poor guy couldn't even order tacos without getting flagged as an international criminal. Julia told him, "It's not your fault. It's just, we were all trained to obey the system without ever questioning who designed it." That hit Gabriel like expired guacamole, so he started watching Julia, and he noticed something strange. She was calmer, not flashy, not rolling in gold chains and NFTs, just peaceful. Because her money didn't live in fear anymore. It lived on purpose. She had auto investments set up like clockwork. She had alerts for unnecessary subscriptions. Cough Gabriel's 7 streaming platforms. Cough. She even made a mini course called Don't Let the Bank Babysit Your Wallet that she sold for $29. Not to get rich, just to prove it could be done. And people bought it. Because the truth is, most people don't want to be rich overnight. They just want to feel like their money matters, that it's growing, that it's helping, that it's theirs. Julia even took it a step further. She started exploring community investing, like local co-ops and peer-to-peer lending platforms that actually supported real people. She put $200 into a fund helping women entrepreneurs in rural areas. It didn't promise a Tesla. It promised a return that felt human. She called it her soul ROI, because not every investment has to scream to the moon. Some just need to whisper, "You did something good today." Meanwhile, her money kept doing its thing, quietly compounding, slowly building, showing up every day like a good friend who brings snacks. And Julia? She stopped checking her bank account in panic mode. She stopped thinking savings meant locking money in a dungeon, and she definitely stopped believing the myth that money is safest in the bank. Because she saw the bigger picture. It wasn't about trusting or hating banks. It was about understanding what banks are built to do and what you are meant to do with your money. Banks are tools. But you're the architect. And once you see that, you don't just protect your money. You position it. You guide it. You build a system that doesn't need constant babysitting. Because it grows by design. Julia's not some billionaire guru. She just saw the cracks in the old system and decided to build something better for herself. Something more flexible, more intentional, more hers. She still uses banks, sure, but now she's the one in charge. So in conclusion, I don't trust banks anymore. Not because they're evil, but because they're not designed to grow your wealth. They're designed to grow theirs. And if you keep playing by their rules, you'll always feel broke, restricted, or one overdraft fee away from an existential crisis. But when you step back, when you start thinking like Julia, you realize you don't need to rage against the system. You just need to understand it, so you can build your own. You become the CFO of your life. You stop storing your money and start directing it. And you finally stop asking permission to use what was yours all along. If you want me to make other videos explaining these topics, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.